Officially has been a month since Tears of the Kingdom release, and here are 10 things that you probably want to be doing right away if you're just starting with Tears of the Kingdom. Do not underestimate the Shrines of Ligtht. It's very easy for us to pass them and not do them or not to go in them because you're probably in a hurry, you want to do other stuff. Because I'm not sure if you know this, but if you just open it, you can travel to that point and you can just do the shrine afterwards. However, Shrines of Ligtht are training grounds for you to learn how to solve a lot of the puzzles that you're going to encounter later on in the game. That's why it's important not to underestimate them. I strongly encourage you to go through each one of them. If you have played Breath of the Wild in the past, a lot of these techniques are gonna be so familiar for you, and you're probably gonna do this like, oh, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to go through that again. They are useful for you to learn several things that, oddly enough, they are very useful if you compare them with Breath of the Wild. Personally, I went back to Breath of the Wild, and for me it was a little bit confusing getting used to the controllers in Breath of the Wild now that I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom. And I really miss the fact that you can go through your entire inventory without having to go into the menu. Also, being able to drop or throw materials without having to go into your start menu. Those couple of things, I feel that it makes it a lot easier for me to play in Tears of the Kingdom. The most common dilemma in Breath of the Wild and now with Tears of the Kingdom: heart containers or stamina vessels? Well, I have to go with stamina vessels, and let me tell you why. It's a lot easier for you to make elixirs or meals that will give you those temporary heart containers, or you can even get fairies, and you can always go around the fact that you don't have a lot of hearts. And stamina is super important for climbing mountains, for gliding, and especially in Tears of the Kingdom, because without giving a lot of details, the world is just massive, and you're not just gonna go and explore the surface. You're gonna be diving and gliding through the skies, and you're gonna need a lot of stamina. So my best advice would be to get at least 2 of the stamina wheels, because I think that's more than enough for you to go around Hyrule without having to worry about the stamina. Of course, there are other ways for you to either to recover your stamina or to get stamina temporarily. So I know there are a lot of ways for you to go around it. There's also something else, but it could be a little bit of a spoiler in terms of the heart containers, so I'm just gonna keep that aside. But if you know exactly what I'm talking about, you can leave it in the comments down below. And that brings us to the most important one, or I believe it's the most important one: unlocking the entire map. I'm just talking about the surface for now, and that includes, of course, going to the Skyview Towers. In Breath of the Wild, there were Sheikah Towers, Sheikah's technology, but now we're using the Skyview Towers. There are a couple of mini quests that you have to go on, some of them, for you to unlock them, but it's going to save you a lot of time when it comes to going or traveling to certain regions of Hyrule. Also, every time that you unlock one of the Skyview Towers, you get the map from the sky as well updated. The depths are a little bit different, although I don't know if you noticed this, but if you unlock one of the shrines on the surface, directly below, you're gonna get the light route. So if you are able to pinpoint all of it on the map, then you can easily go through the depths and open those light routes to try to unlock whatever is down in the depths. So I know you might say, like, I don't want to spend that, I'd rather just go and explore and as I go along unlock the map. Yes, this is more like a personal thing, but in my experience it has saved me a lot of time. I can easily spend more time exploring, doing side quests, getting armor sets, etc., instead of going through the entire map. And now that we're talking about the map, use those markers. You can locate things that are important for you within the map. For example, if you know where to find fairies on one of the Sky Islands, just put a marker there. Or if you know where to find good weapons that you know that they're gonna respawn on the next blood moon, use the marker. You wanna get one of the most powerful fuse materials out there, then pinpoint that enemy or where that enemy is gonna respawn so you can equip yourself on the next blood moon. Following thing that I want to mention might be a spoiler for some, but I don't think at this point because it has been a month. Anyways, the warning is out there. If you want to stop watching the video, I totally understand. But I'm talking about the auto build ability. It's not an ability that you're gonna get within the main quests. This ability, exactly as it sounds, it will allow you to auto build your previous Sonai vehicles, and if you have the proper materials, you're gonna be able to use them without getting the actual Sonai devices. So I strongly encourage you to, as soon as you can, go in and find the Autobuild ability. It's very easy to miss it if you're not going or seeking for side quests, but that's the way that you can find the Autobuild. Probably as a personal thing, but I have noticed that enemies do make a lot more damage than in Breath of the Wild. And that also includes that the weapons tend to break a lot faster. Every single one of the weapons are decayed, which is of course a huge disadvantage. I was kind of thinking in Breath of the Wild, I was like, oh, I can probably use this weapon. It says that it has 16 of damage. I can probably use it. That's when it struck me that I was not using the fuse power ability, or I wasn't understanding it properly. If you look closer at the fuse material, you're gonna find a number. That is your fuse power. So let's say you have a weapon that is 14 points of damage, and then you have a fuse material that gives you 30 points. That means that the weapon that you fuse with that material is gonna give you a total of 44 damage. So do not underestimate the fuse powers. Do not look away of building those weapons, because that's the way for you to play Tears of the Kingdom. And like I said, I was ignoring that at the beginning, and oh my god, did I suffer. It is important for you to read the little icon that you have at the bottom of the weapon, so it will tell you what to use it for. If you want, for example, cut wood, do not use your sword. Use an axe instead, because that's exactly the weapon that you're gonna be using for the job. And if you want to break rocks to get minerals, don't use your sword. Use a hammer, because hammers are a lot easier. It breaks them with 1 or 2 hits. Instead of using a sword, they're gonna be hitting and hitting and hitting until you get that annoying message saying, hey, your weapon is about to break. So it's important for you to learn which weapons are the ones that you should be using for the proper job. And of course, learning how to cook. Well, I'll say most of all, learning what the ingredient is gonna be doing for you. If you go through your inventory and if you select a certain ingredient, it's going to give you the description and even include what is that for. You can always experiment and try to add more ingredients, but if you get the proper recipe, you might wanna mark that on your map, so next time you can go and get more of those ingredients so you can get or prepare more of your meals. Which brings me to another subject that I'm gonna be working on a separate video about this, but you're gonna thank me later. Try to get as many Sandalions as you can and dark clumps. Get them all. You can get the dark clumps by using pose as currency on one of the statues. You're gonna get a meal that will grant you with gloom resistance. And you know the gloom hands, right? And if you step on one of the gloom or something, your hearts are gonna start to get damaged. So you really wanna get that gloom resistance. And the Sandalions, on the other hand, if you cook 3 of them, it's gonna recover your damaged hearts. Try to get as many Sandalions as you can. Even though we don't have Sheikah technology, which I'm still wondering what happened to it, but they do explain what happened to them, but I'm not gonna dive into details. But the Purah pad has a lot of potential. That includes your camera, the sensor plus, and the traveler medallion. Those add-ons are gonna be super important. It's gonna make the gameplay experience a lot more smoother for you. Starting with the camera, that is very easy to miss as well because it's a side quest. Remember that I talked about the auto build? Well, it has something to do with it. And the camera is not that important, but you're gonna need it for certain quests. But the most important thing is that once you get the camera, you unlock the Hyrule Compendium. And that brings me to another subject, the sensor. Yes, the sensor is kind of annoying for shrines. However, if you follow certain tasks or side quests, you can get that upgraded to the Sensor Plus. Now, what is the Sensor Plus? Well, you can take a picture of that hardy lizard, or you can probably take a picture of that big hardy truffle. And when you put that on your sensor, it's gonna tell you where to find it in Hyrule. You will need, of course, to keep looking and pay attention to the sensor until you find that ingredient that you're looking for. But it's gonna make it a lot easier for you to try to find that specific ingredient within the entire map. And the Traveler Medallion, if you played Breath of the Wild in the past, you know that it was included with the DLC. And basically what you can do with it is that you can place it anywhere and you can teleport yourself to that specific part. Because there are some places where you're not gonna be able to teleport yourself because there isn't either a Skyview Tower or a shrine. So it does come in handy. And the last advice would be to unlock all of the fairies within Hyrule. In Breath of the Wild, you needed to give them rupees. But this time around, you have to go through several side quests. They're not that long. I think they're fairly easy for you to go through them. And that will grant you access to enhancing your armor set. sets. If you upgrade your armor, you will notice a big difference when it comes to fighting enemies within the game. Keep in mind that each fairy is gonna ask you for certain items to do the upgrade depending on your armor set. So you might need to go through Hyrule and try to find those ingredients or those materials. They're gonna be needed to enhance your armor. And don't forget that by the end of the day, all of this is a personal preference. So if you don't want to go through all of that, if you want to keep doing things the way you are used to, by all means. I'm just sharing exactly what I think it's going to help a lot of people when it comes to going through the stories and doing side quests. And you know, there's always this kind of conflict between getting yourself well equipped or doing it without the necessary equipment to prove yourself that you're good at the game. Again, it's just a personal preference. But that's all I have to share with you today, and I hope you find this useful. But I'm just gonna leave the collector's edition unboxing here for you to watch it, and I'll see you there. Thank you very much. Goodbye!